Financial Issues, 888-589-8840. 888-589-8840. You're listening to AFR Talk Financial Issues. I'm Dan Celia. Listen, folks, we've got to talk. I'm going to talk about this speech, about the agenda of the Obama administration as it relates to the economy. And let me tell you something. As I listened to it, and I didn't listen to it live because it was at a bad time for me and I knew I would have been distracted. So sometime early or mid-afternoon yesterday, I sat down and listened to it very closely. As a matter of fact, I had to listen to it twice. So I sat down and went through it, and I'm obviously, you know that I'm listening to it from a standpoint of the future, what it's going to look like. So I've got a couple clips I'm going to play. I want to go to Fred Jackson in a minute, talking about some news updates. But let me just say this before we go to some of those news updates. And I'm going to, after Fred, we're going to talk about a couple more of these clips. But let me tell you this. If you have not registered for our seminar, I came to a very scary place after hearing this, because we get complacent sometimes, that you would better be at the seminar if you can be. Another thing that happened that is very, very dramatic, if you remember, I touched on it yesterday a bit. I think it was yesterday, and I talked about it last week. We are getting very close to a currency crisis, a currency bubble. Some very interesting news came out this morning, and I talked about it yesterday because I said yesterday that if the BOJ, the Bank of Japan, if they agree to lift and raise their inflation expectations, the currency crisis, the currency war has just been accelerated by a couple of years. And I'm going to talk about that, I think, later in the program, but I'm not going to make any promises about that. But I will be writing about it, and I will be talking about it at length this week. It is the very thing that is going to bring down the global economy. Also, I want to talk about food commodities because some very interesting reports coming out of the IMF. I don't place a whole lot of value on that. They're just a notch above the UN, which I place zero value in. But nevertheless, I need to talk about where we're headed in the future on food crisis. And when we look at a currency crisis, a potential commodity crisis, you had better get to the seminars so you can plan. And I am going to give you the trends, show you how to find the trends, show you how to monitor the trends, show you how to understand the trends, show you how to develop an overall objective into your strategy and develop a strategy that's for you and your family. Then I'm going to tell you how to implement it, more importantly, and how to monitor it. So you want to be there. Don't miss it. It's probably more important than any other time in our history that you come to this, and it couldn't be better timing for us to do a seminar as opposed to a town hall meeting. We're going to be in Rogers, Arkansas on Tuesday, a week from today. Tuesday morning, we will be in Rogers, Arkansas. On Thursday morning, we will be in Plano, Texas, just north of Dallas. We'll be in Plano, Texas on Thursday morning. You have to register. You have to register. Our seating is limited. We're not going to have the more than 1,000 people that we get at the town hall meeting because we have intentionally limited the seating so that we have a little bit more of an interaction. So you've got to register. We start at 9 in the morning. It's over at 1. We're gonna get there at 8:30 so that you have time to we'll have some coffee and donuts or whatever we're going to have there. But make sure that you come out if you live anywhere near Rogers or Plano, Texas. You can register. You can register at afr.net or financialissues.org. Then we're going to be doing the next seminar we're going to be doing is going to be north of Houston in the Woodlands. We're doing a few town hall meetings in between. So make sure you register for that. I don't want that to go by, and I don't want anybody to miss it. Let me go to our news director here at American Family News, Fred Jackson. Fred, welcome.
Good to be here, Dan. Sounds like scary financial times, and
I'll tell you.
Good advice for people to get out and get some information on how we can handle those things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's interesting times, and you've often said it before in your program, our financial crisis is certainly tied to where we are spiritually as a nation.
Yes.
And today we have an event going on in Washington, D.C. It's actually part of the inauguration ceremonies that have been going on all weekend. Yesterday, certainly the major ceremony. But this morning, President Barack Obama and family, along with Vice President Biden family, are attending a service at the Washington National Cathedral. Now, this is a tradition, but a couple of things have happened in the last few weeks that we have reported before. This is the cathedral where the head of the cathedral there has advocated in the last week that it start hosting, for the first time in the history of this nation, homosexual weddings.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going on. But very interesting, as part of this service that the president and vice president and families will be part of today, according to the Associated Press, the cathedral dean, Gary Hall, says it's an interfaith service. Now, it's an Episcopal church,
right,
but it's going to combine elements of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and Sikhism. So, there you have it. That's where we are spiritually as a nation. Any religion will do. Pray to any god. That'll do just fine. And this is what the president and vice president are participating in today. You know, when I hear the president say from time to time, God bless America.
Oh.
If he's okay with all of these other religions, what God is he speaking to?
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't mean to sound overly negative, but I mean, that's where we are spiritually. And to go back to what we were saying, we're in financial problems because of our spiritual problems. We now have a leadership that believes that any God will do. Now, something else going on today, which we will not see a lot of press about. Unlike yesterday, it was wall-to-wall, the inauguration ceremonies, the parade, all that sort of thing. But today is the 40th anniversary of the Supreme Court ruling in favor of abortion rights. You know, I was looking through a lot of the mainstream media this morning, Dan, not one story on this.
I didn't see any.
Not one.
No.
I have a short AP story right here, and it just quotes somebody marking the fact that since that Roe v. Wade decision 40 years ago, 55 million babies have died. 55 million babies have died. Babies that could have contributed so much. But that is going on today. Now, a little bit later on in the week, you're going to have the March for Life in Washington, D.C., this coming Friday. March for Life. Now, thousands and thousands and thousands of people are expected to be there, and will be, I'm sure, because that is consistent with recent years. But again, watch, folks, the mainstream media, how much attention they will give this event. Despite the fact there will be thousands and thousands and thousands of people lining the streets of D.C., very few media outlets will give this any attention at all. And that's where we are in our thinking in our media today.
It is. And you know, I don't even think that we should be calling the media, or we should be calling reporters in this so-called media reporters, because it's a joke. When you look at the press conferences, are you kidding? These guys have the nerve to call themselves, with the exception of Major Garrett, as I think about the last press conference.
Yes.
I mean, they have the nerve to call themselves reporters? Are you kidding me? I mean, it is just, and the media, the same thing. I mean, I was reading this morning. I sent it out on my Twitter. I said, comic relief of the day. Chris Matthews comments on you know, and at least if nothing else, I can get a laugh out of him. But, you know, to hear him talk about this is an inauguration that is akin to the Gettysburg Address and Abraham Lincoln. And I'm thinking, okay, forget what I think about the speech. All right, I'll set that aside. But akin to the Gettysburg Address and Abraham Lincoln? Oh, my gosh. So that's the kind of media that we have. And I was talking earlier, Fred, about the tax realization setting in on so many people. And I was talking about Phil Mickelson and, others, and there's going to be other professional athletes, I'm sure. Nobody's going to be playing for the California teams, probably. They won't be able to field teams, I don't think. So, it is, there's going to be a huge wake up. And unfortunately, it's going to be too late. It's already too late to do anything about it. But there's going to be this huge, huge wake up. And you can't blame all the folks that are waking up saying, what's going on here. Totally, because a lot of it is, I guess you could blame their viewing habits of the news that they watch as the reason that they were so complacent.
Well, Dan, they're going to wake up. Like a lot of other people, my first paycheck of this 2013, I noticed my take-home pay went down.
Yes.
This was because of the increase in deduction for Social Security. I was reading a story the other day, and you may have talked about this on your program already. The insurance companies, the health insurance companies in this country, even though their penalty, if I understand it correctly, doesn't kick in until later this year or early 2014, have decided to go ahead and pass along that expense to workers right now. So if you're insured where you work, you're likely your premium is going to increase. These insurance companies are anticipating higher costs under Obamacare. So they are adding that increase into the equation right now. So I think America's going to wake up at least, Dan, because everything has been roses, pink-colored glasses now over the last 4 years. But people are going to start to wake up to the cost of Obamacare. They're going to start waking up to the cost. You heard the president mention yesterday about high in his agenda. He mentioned in his speech climate change. We have to do something about it. And he dissed those individuals who still don't believe in global warming. So he has a very strong agenda. There's a good piece in the Wall Street Journal this morning, an assessment of his speech yesterday. And it is very clear, if you thought the president was radical in his initiatives in the first 4 years, watch out. And his talk about getting together to resolve the problems of the country and common ground and all that sort of thing. We know what this president is. This president's idea of negotiating and common ground is you're going to do what I say you're going to do.
Right.
And that's the way Washington's going to work. There's no question about it. Hey, listen, politics elsewhere, very quickly. I know we're running out of time. Election in Israel today.
Yes.
And everybody seems to be saying that it's going to be akin to a cakewalk for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, likely coming back into power. I think that has to do with the increasing threats. Israel's always under threat from its enemies, but the increasing manifested threats over the last year. And they know Benjamin Netanyahu is the guy who is going to do the very best to take care of them.
Yeah.
And so he is likely to certainly win that election today. And we will certainly have results for folks as those results become available to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great, there you have it, Dan.
Stuff. All right. Thank you, Fred. Sure appreciate it. Great stuff, as always. Fred Jackson, News Director, American Family News. And sure appreciate Fred stopping in here every week, a couple times a week sometimes, and sometimes fills in for us here at Financial Issues. And I sure appreciate Fred. Thanks, Fred. I appreciate your work.
God bless.